Do you have bug spray?
I don't have bug spray.
Do you need some? Because I put some on.
So considerate. Arms?
Computer.
It's cold. I'm protected now. Welcome to another installment of Nostalgia Pals, where I get a friend to read a nostalgia read. That means a book that got them into reading or a book that makes them nostalgic for their salad days. And we read it and then we talk about it. But this month is extra special. Why? This isn't just any friend. This is my best friend. This is my sister, Amanda. A lot of people get really confused. They think that we're twins. We're not. She's older. I'm kidding. She's younger. She's my little sister. She's been my little sister for... How old are you?
24.
24 years.
24. So I picked Mrs. Frisby and the Rats of NIMH.
Why, when I was like, let's do a Nostalgia Pals together, did you choose Mrs. Frisby and the Rats of NIMH? I mean, I know why I would have chosen it, because it's cute.
It is cute. It's pretty near and dear to my heart because it's a book that was read to me by my 5th grade teacher years ago, Mr. Garcia. He would read to us books, several books, but this is one of the books that I remember the most. I just love the story, I love the characters, and I love Mrs. Frisby. She's a small mouse, so strong.
What grade were you in when you read this book?
5th grade.
So how was this? Like, you sat in a little circle around Mr. Garcia, and then he read to you, and you were just, like, looking up at him, like, rapt with attention?
Well, for me at least, wrapped in attention. But no, we were able to sit at our desks, and he would carve out, like, an hour or so every day, and he would read to us from a book. And for this book in particular, and the other ones too, he would read a chapter or two, however many he was able to read for that day, and then he would talk to us about it. He'd ask us questions, he would ask us our opinion, and we'd share with him what we liked or what we were confused about. And if I remember correctly, he might have quizzed us, but
It's cool.
I do remember that he would read to us. We didn't have to read the book, and he never made us read aloud in front of the class.
But you would read and listen? Like, you were reading with him? Or were you just listening to him reading?
Listening to him read. Well, 5th grade was a pretty nostalgic year for me in itself. It was the last year that we were in Rosie Roads. That was a Navy base in Puerto Rico that closed down when I was in the 5th grade. You were in 10th grade, right?
Oh, I think I was in either 9th grade or 10th grade. No, I was in 10th grade, for sure.
So for that entire year, we knew that it would be our last year.
There were also less kids. I mean,
There
if
were
it's
less
the same,
kids,
there were less
yes.
kids, and so anything that you did felt even more intimate. I remember my history class with Mr. Beam.
Wow!
Yeah, there was only like 2,
Right.
maybe like 4 of us right at the very end, and so the class ran so smooth. There were so few of us.
I knew that I always wanted to read it again as an adult, and this was my chance, so I was excited to do it.
Okay, Amanda, tell us what happens in Mrs. Frisby and the Rats of NIMH. No spoilers.
Okay, so briefly, Mrs. Frisby and the Rats of NIMH is about a mouse named Mrs. Frisby. She is a widowed single mother of 4 mice, and the story takes you along her struggle of trying to get help for her really sick son, Timothy. He gets sick with pneumonia, and he was always the weaker of her children, and along with that, she's trying to move.
She lives on a farm, and when the farmer is going to plow, so it doesn't plow over her house, to move it so that it's warm enough so Timothy can go, and they can go to their summer house. Like, they have like a little winter, right? They have a little winter shelter, and then they have like a summer shelter.
And she's doing this all by herself. Her kids are too young. They're too young to help her or to really understand, how serious the situation is. And she has to go out of her comfort zone and reach out to animals that she probably would have never reached out to before in order to do whatever it took to literally save her family.
And then also learn about her husband's secret past. Scandalous.
And she also had to do, because of her size, she ended up having to be the one to kind of drug the evil cat named Dragon, who also is responsible for the death of her husband.
Oh, when she finds out. Oh.
That's really sad.
Did you enjoy reading this book the second time around?
I did. I feel like the second time around, reading it as an adult,
The grown-up.
I
Adulting.
understood a lot more about kind of like what the story was really about. And in my opinion, it's about the struggle of a single mom doing whatever it takes to save her family. I love the book, and I would definitely recommend it. I realized just how strong of a character Mrs. Frisby is. Like, even though she was really scared to do them, because the book does let you know, like, oh, Mrs. Frisby is, like, not excited about this, or she's really scared to do this, but she'll do it anyways. Like, she'll step up and be like, I'll do it. She was kind of like the underdog in a way. How she was, like, this tiny little mouse who had, like, a big heart. Like, she was tiny, but her personality and her courage was pretty big.
Not big enough to have a name of her own. Every character in this book has a first name except for she is defined by her
past.
Her married name.
She's explaining her situation. She really needs help, and it's kind of like, well, I don't know. She happens to mention her husband who's passed away. Oh goodness, why didn't you say so?
Yeah, I know that guy. He
goodness,
saved his entire colony from dying in the laboratory.
Mm-hmm.
And then they decide to help her, which I feel is fine because they were acting like normal animals were to act. I thought it was really interesting that a lot of the animals have like human names, like Jeremy and Mr. Ages and Nicodemus and Justin and Brutus, and they all have like all these like human names, and so like you almost expect them to act like humans, but they're not. And like in the law of the jungle, right, or the farm, you're like on your own. But this is a book about cooperation. Like once they do know that she is Jonathan Frisby's widow, they decide they like move heaven and earth for her.
Well, Jonathan Frisby was a lab mouse, right? He was a lab mouse. He was there in the lab with all of these other rats, and he was a big part in helping all of them escape because he was small enough to fit in the nooks and crannies that they had to go through in order to actually escape. So if it wouldn't have been for Jonathan, they wouldn't have been able to make it out. It also kind of throws some jabs at humans and how like attached we are to certain things. Kind of like the comparison of species, you know, mice, rats, and humans, and how we become so attached to our belongings and become greedy. So that was a little deep. I didn't catch that when I was in 5th grade. How when they escaped, they had to build a new life for themselves, and that meant like foraging and stealing supplies. They did that for a while, and they were okay.
Who are you talking about?
The rats. The Rats of NIMH. The Rats of NIMH did that for a while. They stole supplies. They stole food. They were doing okay for a while, but then they started to feel guilty about what they were doing, and they wanted to have a more self-sufficient life. They wanted to, you know, farm their own crops, food, and have their own things and not necessarily, you know, have to steal or take food from trash and steal from the humans. They wanted to be like more self-sufficient. So that was a big part of the book.
But there was also like conflict, right?
There was conflict amongst the rats who were like, "Hey, we're fine, you know, stealing. We're doing okay. We were in a lab for all these years. I think we're fine." And then there were the other rats who were like, "No, I think, you know,
we're better than that now.
We're better than that. We're smarter than that. We could do better."
And they wanted to, but that's Nicodemus's whole issue. He says, we're not rats anymore. We shouldn't be stealing all of these things. I had philosophical questions about the intelligence of animals and how much animals understand and how much they can actually communicate. I know what happens whenever I watch a movie and I'm just like, you know, like A Bug's Life or something. You picture the movie in your mind. Do you picture like cartoons? Because there is a Rats of NIMH, like a Secret of NIMH movie, but like it's like animation. Or do you picture it like Babe? Like with like, or like 101 Dalmatians with like actual animals.
Like 3G animation?
3G? 3D.
My phone's been stuck on 3G, so I'm triggered.
Okay, it's fine. Do you have any? Do you have any favorite animal movies?
Chicken Run.
Because Babe is my favorite like animal movie. Like,
well, there's Chicken Run, then there's Finding Nemo. Ooh. It's time to go, y'all.
Calm down. Do you
But-
think you would like Mrs. Frisby if she was a lizard?
I don't
Mrs.
think-
Frisby and the Lizards of NIMH.
No.
Also, we didn't talk about this. What does NIMH stand for?
The National
Institute of Mental Health.
of Mental Health. Yes.
And that's why they're running experiments on these rats and mice, intelligence experiments,
Mhm.
and it backfires on them.
They learned how to read. They taught themselves how to read.
Well, I mean,
and
they had the enhancements already.
They had the enhancements, but they taught themselves how to read, and that's how they were able to read the signs within the lab to get out.
Yeah, they were like, oh, that means exit. That's the way to go. Let's get out of here.
Get out. Aw.
Okay, what did you think about the lab animals, the lab rats?
Oh,
What did you think about all that?
that was sad. It made me feel guilty for ever purchasing products that aren't cruelty-free. These poor rats. I mean, it's not the same thing. They were being used for research and, well,
To enhance their intelligence.
right, but
And enhance their life. So not only are they smarter, but they live longer,
Mhm.
so they're smarter for their super long rat lives. But you know what I thought was tragic? When the owl starts talking about the tree falling,
oh, that
he
was
says
sad.
one day that this tree is
Mhm.
going to fall, and I'm just going to fall with it. I'm going to be dead in this tree. I was like, this is
Sad.
dark. I feel like I missed the point of that too.
Mhm.
I feel like I missed what that meant because I was just so shook. I was like, well, he's not gonna fly away. He's gonna die in this tree.
That's his home.
That's his home, and this is like where you live,
Mhm.
right? And the rats were taken out of their home, and they were put in this lab,
Mhm.
and then they were enhanced. And then when they tried to go back when they even talked about going back to live in their home, they're like, we can't go back there because we're not like rats anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's it. Maybe it's like about being in your home. But it just also felt a little like Titanic. We're going down with this ship, and I'm like, there's no honor in this.
Fly away. You know,
You can fly away. Just fly away. Just get out of there.
The ending left me kind of like, that's it. I mean,
Yeah.
in the end, she's able to move. She's able to move her family safe and sound, a little farther away from the plow, so they're okay and they're starting their new life. Everything after the rats helped her move, it was kind of like, okay, take care.
We're
That was
never
it.
gonna see you again.
Right.
I was wondering about that. How do you? Why couldn't they like stay in
know.
touch?
You know, come visit every once in a while. Some mouse coffee or something.
How do you feel about mice?
I feel guilty because I think rats and mice are like creatures, but then after reading this book, I'm like, they're smart and they deserve to live outside of labs.
Would you have a pet mouse or a pet rat?
Pet mouse.
Mouse?
Yes.
Because they're smaller?
Yes.
But they're dumber. Rats are smart. Rats are real smart.
Well, now I don't know. Because I have seen some pretty cute rats on Instagram. It's a good question.
Next time, think about it.
Don't get me one though.
I'm not gonna get you. If I was gonna get a rat, it's for me. All right. Thanks for watching. Go out and get yourself a copy of Mrs. Frisby and the Rats of NIMH. Check it out in your library. Learn about the struggle of a single mother and how other animals that know her husband are totally cool with helping her because he was super cool too.
Bye!
Bye!
Thanks for watching Nostalgia Pals. Are you a fan of Mrs. Frisby and the Rats of NIMH? Do you want a pet mouse after watching this video? Of course you do. They're so cute. If you enjoyed listening to us talk about our favorite childhood books, make sure to like this video. For other bookish videos, subscribe to this channel and turn on your notifications to know when a new video is up. Bye!